So let me welcome you to part 2 of 8 ways to sorting out the MSME. What are the problems of these MSMEs? Okay, so this particular broadcast is important for both the MSMEs themselves and, of course, the government agencies that are relating with these MSMEs. And we've come to the conclusion that for us to actually grow and transform this nation today, we will require the MSMEs that constitute over 40 million of the population of 200 million. So that means they represent about 30% of what the population is. And we've always argued that if you sort out this 30% and they are also able to help at least 2 or 3 persons in their household, then of course, be rest assured that we are on the path of transforming the nation. In places like America, places like Canada, they talk about the Small Business Administration, SBA. Today in Canada, once you are able to undergo a training as an entrepreneur, they do everything possible for you not to return back to paid employment. So that's why we are bothered. That's why we really talk about the entrepreneurs. We talk about the MSMEs. And of course, the federal government have brought out the blueprints to be able to relate with these MSMEs. And one of the missing links is that we need a Ministry of Commerce and Industry to be able to coordinate the activities of SMEDA, to be able to coordinate the Bank of Development, the Bank of Industry, the Bank of Agriculture. All these are operating in isolation. Okay? So we need a central coordinating body, and that will come from the Federal Ministry of Commerce and Industry. So earlier we talked about limited access to finance. We talked about inadequate infrastructure. We talk about regulatory policies and barrier, and of course, we look at limited market access. So in this part 2, our attention will now be drawn to low adoption of technology. Okay? Then of course, what about skill gap? And you talk about things like inconsistent power supply. So our focus now will be on number 5, which is on part 2, talking about low adoption of technology. So many MSMEs in Nigeria and indeed Africa are slow to adopting, modern technology and digital tools due to what? The lack of the required knowledge, skill, and of course resources, making them to be what? Less competitive. I mentioned earlier that the world is now a global village and internet is now the market square. Okay? So if I need any product now, I will just go to Google and make a search. So the competition today is now across the globe. So for a supply of a particular item, there are people from the Asia Tigers, the Americas, the Europes, the United Kingdoms. They are all competing for the same market. So there is low adoption of technology, okay, which is leading us to lack of competitiveness. So what are the solutions? The government and the private sector should embark on massive digital literacy program. And of course, the current minister is doing so well, talking about how to promote digital literacy program across our youth, across the world and across the nation. This will equip MSMEs with knowledge and skills using digital tools, okay, for accounting, okay, marketing, is inventory management, and of course you talk about customer relationship. What we need to do now is to create employment, and to create massive employment, we need to go digital, okay? Work from anywhere that you are. You can find electricity, you can find internet, then work can start. Then you look at affordable access to this digital tool and platform. Today, internet is on the top of the roof. You subscribe to a data now, before you blink your eye, that data is gone. Okay? So there should be access to cloud computing, CRM systems, and of course, e-commerce websites. This can help MSMEs to be able to, operate, enhance their operations towards them being able to galvanize, to be able to transform to higher heights. So we're saying digitization is the name of the game, and government should put all the necessary infrastructure to make that knowledge available for us to be able to, transform. So number 6, which is on part 2, is talking about the skill gap. Okay? If you look at some of our previous YouTube presentations, we dwell extensively on skills. Okay? Skills acquisition is the name of the game. There are skill acquisition in the agribusiness sector. There is skill acquisition that has to do with products and services delivery. What about in the area of media? Okay? These are areas in which skills can be acquired for people to become self-sufficient and self-dependent without having to, go for government job at the end of the day. So there is lack of skilled labor, okay? And of course, the rest of the world is facing that. And that's part of the reason why people today are trying to japa, because their skills are required, okay? You are a kettle repairer today. You are a vulcanizer. You are a plumber. What about a carpenter? Your skills are required. But of course, the large population that we have today, we need to build those skills. Because again, today, as of today, we have very few of these skilled workers. So that's why today, you call in a plumber. Beside what he's going to charge you for the materials he's going to buy, his labor cost is probably going to high. His labor cost is going to probably be high because of where he's living. The transportation that brings him from his house to the comfort of your home, where that service is going to be rendered. So there is a lack of skilled labor. There is managerial expertise. And if I will tell you indeed today, even as a nation, we are having managerial issues. And of course, training program tailored for MSMEs. This makes it hard for the small businesses to be able to innovate and for them to be able to transform at the end of the day. So these are the things that we need to look at. Skill gap. So what is the solution? Capacity building, capacity building, capacity building, continuous capacity building. I relate on my own experience. Once I retired, I had worked for a private sector, I had worked for government, but by the time I retired, I needed to go and retool myself, to go and retrain myself. And you can't believe it, I spent majority of the money I had to go and do that. And that made the difference today in my life. So as a way, capacity building and skill development, you have to establish MSME training centers at the end of the day. And of course, speaking to you from this end today, I have been able to set up a skill acquisition center. I've been able to set up an MSME training center. So you can reach out to me personally. I'm so passionate about MSMEs and trying to see how to help them. So if you're an MSME or you are a government agent listening to me today, you can always reach out for us to be able to rub mind to see how we can transform a nation. So we need to establish MSME centers. We need to be able to incorporate businesses and be able to put in managerial training in place for us to be able to transform our nation going forward. Developing more mentorship program. Every entrepreneur must have a mentor. Who are you looking up to? Okay? So if you are looking up to today to becoming a Dangote, it is possible. And I've always argued that Dangote has been the richest man for too long. So we need to have a mentorship program. And as MSME, there must be somebody that you are looking up to. And I tell you, overtaking is allowed. So if you look up to Dangote today and you are able to overtake him, why not? Okay, it's possible and it's doable. And of course, Dangote is not going to live forever. So we need to start preparing ourselves by way of building capacity. Read books about who you want to become. Read books about what you want to become. All this information are available. Today, we are in the era of what I regard to as an information overload. Okay? There's too much information. And if you're not careful, you can get distracted by those numerous information that are streaming online and offline. So, of course, we look at number 7, which is, I will call the elephant in the room, looking at inconsistent power supply. Okay? So, frequent power outages lead to high cost of running alternative energy sources like generators, which reduces the margin of productivity for an entrepreneurs today. Okay? Today, the cost of diesel is high. The cost of petrol is very high. Okay? So we talk about alternative energy now, like the CNG. These are clean energies. Okay? So by the time we start talking about solution, probably we will have to mention things like that. So frequent power outages doesn't help. Today, we operate from the 3rd floor. If we did not build the alternative power supply that we had, we will end up running from third story to ground floor to go and put on our generator up and down. And the power outage is so critical. Okay, and at the end of the day, this leads to high cost of doing business, leading to low productivity at the end of the day. So what is the simple solution? We need to encourage the adoption of renewable energy supply, such as solar. Okay, very important. A barber, for example, now for me, should go off the national grid and be able to use 2-3 solar panels to be able to power. Today, you have a situation where most of the clippers are now coming as rechargeable. So you discover that most people who even go to barbing salon these days hardly use the energy of the barbing salon. So today, there should not be any reason why any barbing salon should shut down or because as a result of power issues. But again, there are issues of the initial cost. Initial cost is so high that most of these entrepreneurs may readily not be able to afford them. And this is where government is needed. Okay? So once we're able to get to alternative power supply, solar, inverter, talking about CNG, talking about gas now. Nigeria is one of the highest gas producing nations in the world. So I don't see any reason why most of our appliances should not go on gas. LPG and CNG, these are alternative energy. And today government is trying to do something to be able to see how the first 1 million cars